Welcome back to What You're Reading Wednesdays. Thanks for tuning in and spending time with us. This week, we'll be discussing the wide world of the young adult genre. Why do you read YA? Can you relate to the book's perspective? Why or YA not?
I do like reading YA. As everyone knows, I tend to read it a lot, actually. You know, I used to really relate to the characters when I was the same age as them. So, you know, now I don't really so much, but maybe because I've been reading it since I was that age, I just continue to read it. So it's like a comfort spot for me.
I do like to read it. I like the fast pace of YA. You get right into the story right away. It doesn't have as much description as some of the adult ones do. So, you know, it's easy to get that story moving along. I sometimes can relate to the character because I can remember what it was like to be that young. But sometimes it's hard. Just depending on what the story is, depending on the character. I mean, if it's just a frothy love story, it's like, oh, you know, I'm done with that stuff, you know. But yeah, some of the other ones I do, because I usually tend to go towards the more adventure type ones or a little bit fantasy sci-fi type ones. So yeah, I do.
I haven't been reading a lot of YA recently. But I do typically like the genre a lot, if you can even call it a genre. There's genres within a genre, Inception sort of. I think that, you know, even though it's called young adult, it's really books written for everyone about younger people. So, you know, sometimes these characters are going through something that maybe you've gone through or are currently going through, and they just might happen to be in high school instead of, you know, however old I am, age adult. But I think it's relatable, and some of the best like dystopian books and like series that we've gotten in recent years are young adult books. So
well, I tend to read young adult when I need or want to keep up with like book trends. So like I've read the first Twilight book, I've read the first Hunger Games book, you know, that kind of thing, just so I can understand like what's going on and some of the verbiage being used in pop culture. It's not something I usually seek out. I kind of find the way that some YA authors write teens is very grating. Like I have a very hard time getting through like John Green. Sorry, I know he's very popular, but it's, you know, just some of the language with the manic pixie dream girl sort of tropes going in. But you know, like Tori said, it's, you know, some of our biggest blockbuster franchises have come from young adult. And
yeah, I agree with the faster pace. I don't know that I really seek out YA novels, but I also have picked them up and really enjoyed them. And I remember my grandma saying when she was like 80 years old that she still felt like a teenager. And I think we can all relate to that, you know, that we can just go right back in time and pick up where we left off.
I enjoy reading YA. I don't read YA as much as I used to because I'm years old, you know what I mean? And so now I don't read it as much. I used to read it in my early 20s. I definitely read it a lot more. And I think it's just that bridge between, you know, finding yourself. I think the YA genre helps people find themselves a little bit more in general, because of some of the topics they hit on. And it becomes very relatable. And I think some of the YAs kind of transcend ages just because people go through things at different points in their lives.
I had read a lot of YA when I was younger, not so much recently, but it's definitely something that I could still go back to, because I feel like the perspective, I mean, we were all young ones. So like Mary was saying, like you can still put yourself in there. I mean, some situations are harder to like go, oh yeah, I totally see where they're coming from. But for the most part, yeah, anyone could read YA, I feel.
And it is hard to get sometimes to get other people to read it. I know I used a YA book for one of my book club selections once, and it was one of the best books we discussed. And they didn't know it was YA until afterwards. And then they just said, oh, I can't believe this is YA. I can't believe this is YA. It was The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak.
I feel like YA books really dig into some of those harder topics a lot better than like adult fiction does. Serious discussions of like teen pregnancy, of, you know, sexuality, of all these things in YA books that I haven't necessarily seen in adult fiction. So it's interesting to see the younger genre handling it.
But I also think that it's because of where you are when you're making YA books. That's when you're trying to form who you are, you know. And when you go into adult fiction, you're supposed to know who you are by that time. I think that's the difference. You know what I mean? I think that's why you see, you know, authors really delving into the YA part, because it's like, oh, you know what I mean? This is when people are forming their opinions. This is when we're forming the youth about what's going on. This is when they're forming their ideas of who they are sexually, who they are, you know, mentally, you know what I mean? This is when those kind of ideas get really formed for adult years. You know, YA in collection development is always the ones we take risks on as librarians. We always take a risk on a new YA author, because there's always someone new coming up and out of this genre. You know what I mean? It's where we try a lot of different things. I think YA for us is one of those things. It's like you don't really invest too much in it as far as like a main collection, because it turns over so much. You know, someone who's popular, you know, like even Meg Cabot, she's, you know, Princess Diaries was the, you know, it was like, let's be honest. And then now she's branched out into adult, but it hasn't had the same, for me, it hasn't had the same popularity as when she did, you know, Princess Diaries. I tell Tori all the time, buy whatever you want in teen, because it, you know, who knows what's going to be popular.
Since you don't seek out young adult books, do you go to the movie adaptations? Why or why not?
I definitely have, you know, thinking back to the ones I've seen, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, my favorite one right here, Wonder. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but beautiful movie. And then I got the book afterwards and read through it with my daughter.
I really, really like the book. I do not watch it because, you know, they can't put everything from the book into the movie. I don't want it to mar my vision of it. Sometimes they just deviate enough from the book that it's disappointing. And here we'll say My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Okay. So
the movie ruined that ending.
Yes, they did. Or like, I'm thinking of one of the Hunger Games ones, probably the Catching Fire one. And I'm thinking the dress that's on fire. It's like, of course, I've envisioned this fantasy type dress that you can never portray on television, you know, or in the movies. But yeah, just little things like that. So I don't usually go if I've really, really liked it.
That's part of the reason I never saw the new Little Women adaptation, because I do not like Emma Watson as Meg, and I hate the idea of Timothée Chalamet as Laurie. I was like, you can't do this to me. You can't do it.
See, and I liked that one. I thought that was a good adaptation. This all comes into play with how much input does the writer have in making the movies. You know, and a lot of times, you know, if they sign those rights away, you know, they have nothing to say about them. Whereas I think that J.K. Rowling had a lot of stuff to say about those Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, I think everyone just has to go into these adaptations knowing that the book will always be better.
I did Hunger Games, but that was well done, in my opinion. The last one I think I went to was the Mortal Instruments movie, and that was so bad I wanted to walk out of the theater.
I was going to say I still have PTSD from Aragon, however many years ago that was, because I loved the book, and, you know, this 15-year-old kid wrote it or whatever, and I thought it was so cool, and then was so excited they were making a movie, and I went to it with my friend who also loved it, and I just had my heart broken. It was so bad.
The YA books that get turned into movies tend to be either like slice of life romance or dystopian, neither of which really appeal to me. I have enough dystopia in my real life right now, so I don't need it from the screen.
They never cast age-appropriate people.
No,
Oh,
they're
no,
all like,
never.
ugh. I did not look like that at 14.
Absolutely not.
Ugh.
I still don't look like that.
Right?
That's true too.
Tell us a few young adult authors that you enjoy.
All right. When I was soul searching for this answer, I came up with the ones I really enjoyed, like growing up, like Madeline L'Engle, Judy Blume, and then I don't know if you can count Laura Ingalls Wilder, but my gosh, I inhaled her books. And then like of more current authors, I think the only other one I like actively keep up with his books is Brandon Mall, and that's because back when his first series Fablehaven came out, I loved it. And he's only had, one, misstep series, in my opinion, since then.
This is probably going to date me, but some of the earliest authors, at least that I knew that were YA at the time, were Holly Black and Amelia Atwater Rhodes.
Oh.
I didn't even think about Judy Blume because when I read her, she was up in the children's department, like juvenile fiction.
Yeah.
And I think for like YA, I visually like imagine where I was like getting the books from growing up, because I did go to the library that I work at now.
Mhm.
And I even remember like being like maybe a freshman in high school, like finally like discovering that we had a YA section, or maybe that would be around the time that we actually had it.
Yeah, we had moved them out of
Created
the adult section and created a YA section at that
Yes,
point, right?
because I remember there was like the new shelves were like right in front of the circ desk, and I remember like looking over at the area, and I don't even know if it was titled YA at the time, but I think these are for me, and then just checking stuff.
Yeah.
So one of my like super favorites, feel like I'm stealing one of Mary's answers here, but Jason Reynolds, who is like one of 3 of my favorite YA authors who isn't white, which is still saying something because I've got about a dozen names written down. I'm not going to say them all, but Jason Reynolds is probably number 1. Also really like Adam Silvera. He writes queer characters really well, and he just is really good. And then another one I really like, I can't believe she only has 2 books, but Jandy Nelson. It's just, I don't really know you can't describe perfection, so I'm not going to try. I would say those are my top 3. And then one of my favorite authors ever, Christina Lauren. They've written one of my favorite YA books in general. Just like favorite, like top 10, I would say, books, autobiography. So, which is also a queer novel.
Oh, Jason Reynolds is fabulous. Long Way Down and All American Boys, just excellent, excellent reads. Just very, very good. Somebody else I like Maggie Stiefvater, who goes into the, she just goes into a lot of different stuff, kind of fantasy, kind of magic realism. I mean, the Raven Boys series is really, really good, and she just did like a prequel to it called On the Hawk, which I really like that one also. And if we're going back old time, I did like Lois Lowry, and there's another one, and he wrote probably back in the 80s, Chris Crutcher. They were usually sport books, but there always was a good kind of moral that these kids learned something emotionally in the story. And usually they were like nice kids, like treating other people well and stuff, but in difficult circumstances. So those were real good. And one more, Neil Schusterman. He writes some good books too.
I like Judy Blume forever. That was like one of the first, like, kind of feel like racy, like novels I read.
She taught me about periods. Okay?
Right. Like all kinds of good stuff in
Yeah,
that book.
yeah.
Right. And then I segued kind of into Allie Carter, the Gallagher Girls series. I really like that series. It's about I call it a spy girl training academy charm school situation. It was really, really cool. I really liked it. So my TBR is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. And then my other TBR is Renee Watson's. Oh, okay, hold on. Can I get it?
There it is.
Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson. She won a Newbery Honor, and she won a Caldecott Award for her book.
Nice.
in another book that she wrote was called Whatcha's Rise, and it's like a feminist anthem for teen girls. So I just thought that was a really good too. I haven't read it yet, but that's also my TBR.
Mary, we had a recent experience with my book club where we chose a YA book and didn't really realize it was YA, and that was Far From the Tree by Robin Benway.
Oh yeah.
That was really
Benway.
good. It was a contemporary novel, talked about some issues like, let's see, foster care system, teen pregnancy, adoption. It was really good.
I do like Becky Albertalli, who did write Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda. And she has also written with Adam Silvera. It's called What About Us? I believe.
What if it's us?
What If It's Us? Which was really cute. I like that one too. And then Julie Murphy, who wrote Dumplin', which I love that book. It was a great adaptation on Netflix. And if you love that, I would highly recommend reading the book because there's just so much more to it. And I just love it so much.